people were prohibited from using their land for development reasons, and our senator gave an opinion on it that if these people could not use their land for the purposes that they wanted to, that they should be compensated. Now, my question is to you and the board, there is people in this town that own big tracts of land and are favored of gas drilling. And now by putting a law of this nature in, this heavy industry law, you have taken away their mineral rights or their ability to use their mineral rights. How are you going to compensate these people?
The question is, I hear two questions. I hear, is this law, if this law is passed, does that constitute what the law calls a taking, which I'll talk about in a moment? And then secondly, if it is, how's the town going to pay for that? Is that the question?
Pretty much. According to what it says here, honest that if New York City wants them to limit land use rights, then what to pay for it. And there's a whole article on here on how the city of New York has been paying in the watershed for people to sell their development rights to the city. So if you're prohibiting people from doing something, there's people for, there's people against. Half the people are happy, half the people are upset. Now they can't use their mineral rights no more. How are you going to compensate? Because they lost that.
Okay, so the question,
Not everyone wants.
the statement is that is that this law deprives the people of their mineral rights. I'm going to interpret that as a question: does it deprive people of their mineral rights? And by the way, just to sort of correct the record, I did not say that people don't own their land or anything. What I said is that people, property owners, hold their property subject to the rights of others. That's always been the case in this country. And as I said, unless you're the king, it's always been.
But I could sell my land and still hold those rights.
Right.
So in theory, those rights are mine.
Okay, so what he's saying again is that the same thing, so I'll try to answer it right now. Nothing here in this law or any law that looks like this deprives anybody of their minerals. This is totally focused on impacts. So if each day, literally, that's not true. Each week, somebody in this industry, let me also say that I don't want to be, you asked about, if somebody asked if I'm pushing the board, you want me to answer this as a lawyer? Or as a, okay. If each week somebody in the gas drilling industry says that they're getting better and better and better and better, and that they're not generating or creating these impacts, and if a law like this is here, nobody is taking those minerals away. They're there. Okay? If a week from now, or a month from now, or 3 years from now, somebody comes up with a way to extract that gas in a way that does not generate these impacts, you're good to go. But let me talk about the bigger issue of a taking, okay? The Constitution, both the federal Constitution and the state Constitution, do not prohibit people from taking private property, but what they do say is if you take private property for public use, you have to pay just compensation. There's two kinds of takings. When most people hear the word taking, they think of something called eminent domain. And what that is when the town board, the people at the front of the room, in their wisdom, think that something should be done, a road should be widened or something like that, and they take your property. There's a physical dispossession of your property. It might be permanent or it might be temporary. It might be a construction easement and they only take it for a week. It doesn't matter if it's short, if it's permanent, short in duration. It doesn't matter if it's permanent. Sorry, I have my back to you. It doesn't matter if it's a 1-inch sliver, or it doesn't matter, or if it's an acre. if there's a physical dispossession by the sovereign, by the government, that is a taking, and you have to pay just compensation. It may be $1, or it may be a lot of money. That's a taking, okay? There's another kind of taking, and the best example I can give you is if I own the land from the parking lot to the next property, and there's nothing on that right now, and on the other side of that is the ocean. And these people, in their wisdom, decide that they want all of the rest of you to be able to drive by from here and look at the ocean. So they pass a zoning law, or any kind of law, but let's call it a zoning law, that says that I can't put anything on my property in that parking lot. Okay, now that's not a physical dispossession. All right? That is, this is what's called a regulatory taking. But there are different rules in the context of a regulatory taking. And remember I said in a regular taking, an eminent domain taking, if it's no matter how small it is, no matter how short it is, it's a taking and you pay. Ain't so in a regulatory taking. In a regulatory, and that would be a taking, because there's nothing I can do with that property except have a picnic on it. And they did that for the public good. They did it so the rest of you could look at the ocean. But it's a taking. But the rule in a taking, the rule in a regulatory taking context is that if there is more than a de minimis amount, if there's more than just a little teeny bit of value left afterwards, then that's not a taking to begin with. It's not like it's a taking for $1. It's not a taking at all. So if instead of saying to me, let's say the zoning out there in that parking lot was limited to 1 story high, and I wanted to build 4-story condos to sell to people to look at the ocean. That's not, and they pass a law that says I'm limited to 1 story. That's not a taking. As a matter of law, it's not a taking. United States Supreme Court, that is not a taking. It's not a taking because what the court looks like in the regulatory context, and this is really important to understand, because everybody knows about eminent domain, but it's a different kind of analysis in a regulatory context.